I think a lot of these girls probably just need good, positive mentors, good, positive people in their lives to show them what life can be if they choose to take that right path. But like I told you, you've also got to be willing. If they leave, you have to, you can't hold them. You know what I mean? They have to do this because they want to, which is, I know, one of the requirements, which is a good thing.
I know Dignity House has an 85% turnaround at their house. Again, it's a year-long program, so you need the length of time to separate them from the game and life.
Wow.
And once we get Rescue Project and get more girls into that, we'll actually be able to do a statistic for that as well.
It's phenomenal that you guys are doing this, because this has been a missing link for a long time. So what you're able to provide and what Streetlight's able to provide are phenomenal for us, because a lot of times what happens is we take the girl off the street, she's a listed runaway, whatever it is, and we end up putting her right back in the situation with the family that she just ran away from for whatever reason, right, wrong, or indifferent, or we end up putting her back in a CPS home, because sorry to tell you, but CPS homes aren't all they're cracked up to be usually.
Right.
So we end up having to put her right back in a situation, or we end up having to put them into JCC because we have no other alternative. So it's kind of a crappy feeling, excuse my language, for us when we know this kid has been forcefully put on the street, or or she's been groomed and put on the street, and she thinks, you know how many times we've sat with these girls and they don't want to give us information about their pimp, but they'll kind of talk to us about him a little bit, and they're crying because they love their pimp.
Wow.
You think they want away from that? They love this guy. They truly believe that they love their pimp and that their pimp loves them.
Wow.
How long does it take for the girls to get, like, their mind to get where, like, they love him? Like, how long do the pimps be with the girls?
Not long.
Not long at all. Yeah. With Paige, she went from a gorilla pimp to a finesse pimp, and she was treated right. She fell in love with him. Again, when she was found in Orlando, it took the time for her to separate when I was, talking to her. And she's like, okay, yeah, you're right. I know he did me wrong. And then we did a confrontation call with this pimp, with One Cash, and like that, she was snapped back into him just because she heard his voice. She fell right back into his trap again. And it's instantaneous that it will happen.
I think, a big benefit of what you're doing and like what Streetlight will do is maybe we'll get this girl off the street. We'll end up charging her with prostitution because, she won't flip, she won't give us a pimp, or she won't give us any other information. We'll have to charge her for prostitution. But because she's with you, what you have to understand is maybe within a certain period of time, and she starts to turn around, at some point she might be willing to provide that information that we can use, and you need to make note of that information. And you don't give it. If you give it to us at some point and she doesn't want you to, you have to keep it anonymous. Don't ever violate that confidentiality or that trust that they have in you. But you could say, hey, one of the girls gave us info on this pimp, and this is where he lives and all that. Because usually the pimps have a lot more other females that they're holding. So we might be able to go and get a bunch of other girls off the street. But if they're talking to you and they decide, hey, they want to cooperate with us, with law enforcement, then you can facilitate that. Because that might be something that also comes out of what you do, is even though they aren't willing to give it initially, when they start getting their mind on, straight, and they might be able to start giving us info. So that's something that, these kind of programs might also facilitate, which is great.
Right. Do you guys ever go to schools, public schools, and talk about this?
I haven't.
I have my own business, and I can tell you most public schools, most people don't want to hear the truth.
Right.
Okay, I'll tell you that right now, because 93% of the juveniles know their attackers. 1 in 3, or 1 in 4 to 1 in 6 girls, females, will be molested, sexually assaulted, or have an attempt sexual assault in their lifetime. That's a lot. But I can tell you the majority of those, like I told you, 93% of the juveniles know their attackers, which means their family, friends, relatives.
Wow.
People don't want to hear that. So when people call me to say, hey, you want to come talk to my school? I say, yeah, absolutely, but you have to understand this is what I'm going to share. Some of them will not have me come talk because it's just, for whatever reason, as society, unfortunately, we don't want to face reality, which my personal opinion, until we're able to face that, we're not going to fix a whole lot. So I really don't think schools want us coming in and talking to these girls about the reality of this. Now, I could be wrong. If a school were to reach out to us and say, hey, you want to come talk?
Right.
Yeah, we'd be absolutely,
Sure.
we'd go, because it is important information, and it is important to understand that it can be anybody. Somebody asked, you know, how often does this happen in Scottsdale? You know what? There's a lot of rich girls that are good prey. So they're just as good prey as the girls that you think are living in South Phoenix and that are poor growing up in the ghetto. So there is no differentiation on who they pick as victims, and that's a big oversight, I think, because people think, you know, they grow up in these wealthy families or they grow up and they're treated right. It doesn't matter.
And from what I understand, they're also now up in Scottsdale. Are they actually removing them from their driveways at their home? Are they actually these men, these pimps going into the homes in Scottsdale and attacking people right at their home? Because I've heard that before.
I haven't heard that. I haven't seen anything to corroborate that. You guys want to see a good movie also? The best movie that you can watch about human trafficking that I personally think is Trade. Traffic is good, or what?
Taken.
Taken is good, but Trade, you may not be able to sit through all of it. Taken has an aspect of the excitement and the guy killing everybody, which, you know, sorry, I know I shouldn't say it, but you know, I was kind of happy to see that. But Trade as a whole, Trade is much more realistic. And it talks very much about the human trafficking and coming over the borders, and my dad won't sit through it, my fiance won't sit through it. So I don't.
It's graphic.
It's not graphic in that it shows nudity or anything. It's graphic in that it shows you what really happens, and the tragedy.
So
From
can a 13-year-old watch that movie?
I think a 13-year-old can watch it. I think it's a very good educational movie to show them that, you know, what reality is. I mean, it's not like I said, it's not graphic in terms of nudity or anything like that. It's just graphic in terms of reality. Like at one point they show the girl getting raped, but they don't show any nudity. You just know she's getting raped, because of how they show the scene.
What's the percentage of the girls that make it back and stay out of that life?
I don't know.
It depends on the program. If their mind's not right, there's no percentage. They're just going to return. Like Dignity House has the 85% turnaround that they're actually going to become clean. But it's just getting the program, getting the help, and getting their mind right.
Do these girls have to go through the diversion program?
You know what?
Dignity House, yes, you have to live there for the year. It's a year commitment. Voluntary commitment.
The diversion program is for Catholic Social Services. It's a good program. They actually go into JCC also. I don't know if you know that, but
yeah.
They do go into JCC like once a week and talk to the underage girls that have been turned out into prostitution. For the adult females, it's a program that is not in custody. It's when they're out of custody. I think it's a good program. I think there are some faults with it. That is really no fault of Dignity House. It has more to do with the judicial system than that. But I've gone to the graduations, I've seen the girls, I know what they do. I think it's a good program. I think it's very positive, and it does provide a lot, and they do have to go through the diversion program. The diversion program itself is only, I think they do a few different ones, but I think it's only like a week or 2 weeks, or maybe it's a month. I'm not positive, but the diversion program itself is a good program. And like I said, I don't remember how long it is. I want to say it's a week. And it's not a live-in program.
What do they do in the diversion program?
Diversion is if we pick a female up for prostitution, you may be able to expand on it more than I can. We arrest a female for prostitution, rather her pleading out and saying, you know, okay, I did this. She can choose to go into the diversion program, which allows her to basically get rid of that conviction and go into diversion. And if she successfully graduates diversion, then essentially that charge gets taken off her record.
Okay, so what I hear you saying is that instead of pleading out, which means confessing, right?
Now, pleading out just means rather than go to trial,
okay.
then she pleads out. She takes a plea that says if she successfully gets through diversion, that conviction will go away. Because technically a plea is considered a conviction.
Okay, conviction, not confession.
And
when you get some of these girls off the street for a minute, do the pimps wait for them? Like for how long? Months or like, do you know what I mean? Do they wait for them to, or do they go on to someone else?
Well, they always go on to somebody else. They don't ever,
But they don't.
But they'll still be more than happy to take her back.
Yeah.
But they have more than one girl already. I mean, they have a group of them. And a lot of times, you know, they've got the young ones out there, and that's at least what I try to get across to some of the girls that I talk to is, you know, if you have any young girls, you know, let us know where they're at.